Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad to have you back. Let's check out our cosmic weather for today. Solar wind 306.7 kilometers per second. Planetary K index is at a 0. Expected to be no higher than that. Coronal holes we could see about the same as yesterday, slowly making its way towards turning around towards Earth. So next couple days we should expect to feel the effect of the solar wind hitting the planet in some degree or another. Chance for flares are very low. Again, geomagnetic storm activity is also low as well. Alright, let's go over to our astrology. For today, we are at the very end of the month here, the 31st. Today we're at a void of course moon, so you know the drill with void of course moon. Those are days that are in between the signs, and therefore it's not really a day to take things off. It's a day to be aware that there's a switch going on, and so some of the big decisions and things that need to be done during that changing of the guard should be reconsidered, just to make sure that all energies are working at full strength when you're making your decisions and when you're working with life itself. Alright, so today the two energies we're dealing with are between Virgo and Libra, Earth and Air. We got an air sign on the conscious mind, the outside, so we got Earth and Air underneath. So we're dealing with the elements of Earth and Air today. Earth and Air. We've dealt with that lots of times. That's what we're working with today. The moon phase, we're making our way back down to the new moon again, 80% to go. The Mayan Oracle, we've started a new wave spell, which is a new theme. The theme is the theme of the star. The star is all about beauty and elegance. So these next 13 days are about shining bright like the star. So today, day number 1, tone number 1, is about attracting those energies like a magnet. So the first one is unifying. The magnetic tone unifies, it attracts. So that's what we're doing today. We're attracting to ourselves that which we want to accumulate, that which we want to manifest. And the theme is beauty, elegance, shining brightly. And so to start off our supporting cast members, we have the challenge for today is the mirror, endlessness. Whereas the like-minded energy for today is the monkey, playfulness. And the hidden power is the Skywalker, our ability to explore space. Alright, the phrase for today is I unify in order to beautify, attracting art. I seal the store of elegance with magnetic tone of purpose. I am guided by my own power doubled. And of course on the Gregorian calendar it is the 31st of January 2013. Alright, our first month of 2013 is quickly coming to an end. Has it been a good month for you so far? It's gone fast, hasn't it? Okay, continuing on right here. This next piece is about consciousness. This is another professor, John Hagelin. Here we go. I think you're going to enjoy this as much as the one from yesterday.
I'm going to go back to something you said about, in the film, the integration of the quantum and the neurology and that sort of the biology part. Because we purposely in the film kind of left that vague so that people could put it together for themselves. And they're very interested in the science behind that. How do you see them fitting together?
Well, you did a very nice job in fitting them together in one way in the film. And that is both really see, both of these disciplines, modern quantum physics and molecular biology, neuroimmunology, they both say that we do create our own realities and that we have a lot of responsibility over the world in which we live, at least the way we experience the world and the way the world behaves towards us. That's a very good connection, actually. That was brilliant. Ultimately, what we'd like to see is, what is the physics of consciousness? We can ask that question today. What is consciousness? Where does it come from? What are the origins of consciousness? What are the limits of human potential? We're in a position to actually answer that now, I believe, although there's certainly not consensus yet in the scientific community about that. But with the real cutting-edge knowledge, the discovery of the unified field, the so-called superstring field, we now understand that life is fundamentally one. At the basis of all life's diversity, there is unity. At our basis, you and I are one. And that unity, at the basis of mind and matter, is consciousness, universal consciousness. So with that deep understanding that consciousness isn't created by the brain, it's not purely an outcome of molecular chemical processes in the brain, but is fundamental in nature. It's the very core of nature. We call it the unified field. Now that we have that foundational understanding of what consciousness is, we can solve the mind-body problem. We can see how consciousness percolates up through our physiology to become the consciousness that we experience and see and sensory perception and all of that. So there is a foundation now to really link rigorously neuroscience with quantum physics. That might be really a next step in the development of the movie. You've asked the questions in the first movie. Now we're just on the verge of being able to answer those questions.
So you mentioned the unified field. For people who never, a lot of people are going, well, that sounds nice, it's unified, everything's one. Could you dive a little more technically into what the unified field is?
Progress in our understanding of the universe through physics over the past quarter century has been exploring deeper levels of natural law, from the macroscopic to the microscopic, from the molecular to the atomic to the nuclear to subnuclear levels of nature's functioning, so-called electroweak unified scale, grand unified scale, super unified scale. And what we've discovered at the core basis of the universe, the foundation of the universe, is a single universal field of intelligence, a field which unites gravity with electromagnetism, light, with radioactivity, with the nuclear force, so that all the forces of nature and all the so-called particles of nature, quarks, leptons, protons, neutrons, are now understood to be one. They're all just different ripples on a single ocean of existence. That's called the unified field or superstring field, and it's a mathematical tour de force. But we have realized Einstein's dream. He dedicated half of his life to discovering this unified field, and now in the context of the superstring, that has been achieved. So unified field theories based on the superstring identify a single universal field of intelligence, an ocean of existence, at the basis of everything, mind and matter. And all the so-called particles of the universe, the forces in our universe, everything in the universe are just ripples on that ocean of existence. That's the unified field. And that field is a non-material field. It is ultimately the field of consciousness. And all our separate consciousness, wherever there's consciousness, is merely consciousness by virtue of the fact that my consciousness, your consciousness, are ultimately that. Everything in the universe is really nothing but that. Planets, trees, people, animals, we're all just waves of vibration of this underlying unified superstring field. We are really united at our core. And ultimately the understanding that's emerging will be that there is only one consciousness in this room. And it is you. And it is me. And it is each and every one of us. We individualize our consciousness through the filter of our nervous system. But the consciousness itself, our very inner subjectivity, the self in the big sense, that is universal. And knowing that, knowing it through experience, is called enlightenment, and has been called enlightenment through the ages.
It sounds like you're going down through the physical realms, leptons, smaller, and you're saying at the base it's not solid, it's intelligence. Why do you use the word intelligence?
That is a very brilliant question. What you're saying really reflects a bias that all of us share. Everyone who's grown up in the scientific world is used to the concept that we're living in a material universe, an inert universe, a universe of dead matter. And because of that, it's difficult instinctively to grasp that we're not really living in a dead universe, that the universe is overwhelmingly conscious at its basis. See, what we have seen and studied for 300 years, function. And what is a wave function? Technically, it's a vector in a linear space. But what's a vector in a linear space? What's it made of? What's the substance of nature? Well, a wave function, a vector in a linear space, is made of the same stuff thoughts are made of. We're really living in a thought universe, a conceptual universe. Quantum mechanics is just the play and display of potentiality. So the point I'm making is the deeper you go in the structure of natural law, the less material, the less inert, the less dead the universe is, the more alive, the more conscious the universe becomes. Then when you get to the foundation of the universe, the unified field or superstring field, it's simply a field of pure being, pure intelligence. Intelligence because it's the fountainhead of all the laws of nature. Field, it's simply a field of pure being, pure intelligence. Intelligence because it's the fountainhead of all the laws of nature, all the fundamental forces, all the fundamental particles, all the laws governing life at every level of the universe have their unified source in the unified field. That makes the unified field the most concentrated field of intelligence in nature. Non-material, dynamic, self-aware intelligence. Those are the properties of the unified field.
Could you also use the term, because I've read this someplace, some people are saying at the bottom, it's also information. Is that kind of similar, or is that another way to describe the same thing?
It's very similar. I'd say the quantum world, quantum mechanics, is really the play and display of information, the play and display of potentiality, waves of information, waves of potential electron. And it's important, the word potential. This isn't the world of electrons. It's the world of potential electrons. But when you have to ask the question, waves of what, really? What is the field that is waving? Is it the ocean? No, it's a universal ocean, an ocean of pure potentiality, an ocean of abstract potential existence. We call it the unified field, or superstring field. And that's what we're made of. So, as you said, the tighter physics have tried to grasp onto physical reality, to understand what it's really made of. What are the core building blocks of life? At the basis of it all, life, the universe, slips through your fingers. And you come up with something that's increasingly abstract to come to the realm of pure abstraction. And that's what the unified field is. It's pure abstract potential, pure abstract being, pure abstract self-aware consciousness, which rises in waves of vibration to give rise to the particles, the people, everything we see in the vast universe.
That was great. I got awesome. Goosebumps on that one.
Why, I don't know, this is a big question, I'm not even going to answer it, but I've always asked this question of all the people that I keep talking to, because it seems so obvious to me, most of what you're saying. It just seems very natural. Why are we not educating? How did we get so, if the Vedics seem to have it right such a long time ago, how did we end up here? You know?
Boy, that's a good question. How is knowledge lost? The knowledge of enlightenment can easily be lost. The techniques to experience pure consciousness, unbounded awareness, can easily be lost, not because they're difficult or complicated, but because they're so subtle. Very interesting. In order to transcend, to experience unbounded awareness, consciousness has to settle down completely. Now, if you try and reproduce that experience, you'll never succeed, because trying involves effort, and effort keeps.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. I have 6 stories, so why don't we get over to the first one here. This is unknown lights hovering above Cape Coral in Florida. This was just recently. Why don't I go ahead and play this clip so you can hear the actual news channel itself and what they had to say. anything to say. Alright, well, while that's trying to figure itself out, I'm going to go on to the next one here. This is researcher is urging U.S. military veterans to divulge their UFO
and
sightings.
unexplained filled the skies over Cape Coral this weekend.
Some of you wrote to NBC2. You even shared some video of these bizarre lights, thinking maybe they were UFOs. Well, NBC2 Steve Campy discovered what it really most likely was.
I never saw anything like it before.
Strange sightings in the skies over Cape Coral spark imagination.
They were just like white lights, small in size, you know, and they were maybe 50 foot above the water.
Pete Maschio tells us he saw bizarre lights flicker this weekend off the South Cape.
I've seen things that, you know, don't look normal.
Richard Goby isn't sold, telling us extraterrestrial life may exist, but probably didn't visit Cape Coral.
It's probably reflections. It's probably something off the water that reflects up in the sky.
The Mutual UFO Network tells us many of the sightings could be easily explained with this, what's called a sky lantern. The hot air has filled up this lantern and actually wants to pull away right now, so we're going to try to launch this off and see how far it goes.
The color, the brightness at night, because it gets really bright, they're going to think this is a UFO.
Chris Whiten sells sky lanterns at his Fort Myers store. The fireworks enthusiast tells us some might mistake the increasingly popular contraption for a UFO.
It's going to be heading out, continuously going higher, and it'll get to where it's a pinprick of light because of the distance and the height.
While we can't be certain these lights are man-made, some plan to look up with a watchful eye.
I'll look at it a little more closely.
And perhaps spot something surreal. So, Pete, you think we're not alone?
No, I definitely think we're not.
In Cape Coral, Steve Campion, NBC2.
Alright, so this last clip here, this last piece right there, where is it? Right there. If indeed that is an image of what was seen, that's not a lantern. We all know that's not a lantern, right? Okay. Moving on. Now, this story has to do with military veterans urged to talk about UFO sightings. Researcher urges U.S. military veterans to divulge their UFO sightings at nuclear weapons sites. Noted UFO researcher Robert Hastings is asking U.S. military veterans to contact him regarding their UFO-related experience at nuclear missile sites, weapon storage areas, and atomic thermonuclear bomb test sites during the Cold War era and beyond. On September 27, 2010, Hastings co-sponsored the UFOs and Nukes press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., which CNN streamed live. During the press conference, 7 U.S. Air Force veterans discussed UFO incursions at ICBM sites at Maelstrom Air Force Base, Montana, F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Wyoming, and Walker Air Force Base, New Mexico, as well as the weapon storage area at the RAF Bentwaters. The incident at Maelstrom, okay, it goes on to talk about them. So, follow up on this article here. If you're military, ex-military, you know anything about UFOs, there might be has information here where you can contact him. It says he believes the American people and citizens of all the nations deserve to know the facts regarding the reality of UFOs and ongoing situation involving our nuclear weapons. Military veteran testimony will greatly contribute to this objective. And you may contact Mr. Hastings at ufohastings@aol.com. Alright, next story. This is UFO sighted while chasing an airplane on the 27th, just a couple of days ago. It's a short clip, 30 seconds. And there we go. Alright. So the image is available. So you can check it out, make of it what you will. The link is available. Next story, NAS Norfolk Air Show. Alright, we're going through some old footage during an edit session and found this artifact flying through the shot of the AV-88 Hunter jet. It doesn't appear to have any wings either. This was shot several years ago, so this isn't something brand new. Alright, let's see here. It's a quick clip. There we go. It looks like a bird that flew through there. No? Okay, maybe not. Okay, nice good reflection off of it there. I thought they were flapping wings for a moment. Very interesting. Alright, that looks like whatever it is, this thing looks like it's landing, and notice that one taking off. Interesting. Okay, next story here. This is a compilation video of January sightings, since we've already come to the end of January. Believe it or not, this is a compilation of all kind of sightings during the course of the month. It's 6.5 minutes, 6 minutes 44 seconds long. But it's pretty cool. I was going through, checking out all the different sightings, and most of them we've seen. And the links are up available. So anyway, this is another link. Just wanted you to check it out. And I got one more UFO news story here. This is about the Starchild skull. You remember this skull that was found? Anyway, there's lots of investigation continues on this skull. Lloyd Pyre, in his investigation of the Starchild skull, attempt to answer our deepest questions, such as where we come from, who we are, and where we are going. George Noory's skillful handling of the delicate subject of aliens on Gaiam's beyond belief. What George Noory gives the subject dignity it deserves. Not only does the hypothesis that the Starchild is that of alien get respect, but Pyre's presentation is laced with cliffhanger-like drama. Pi says the results of DNA testing and genome mapping may be available as soon as the end of this year. So there's a good article here about the continued research in this particular area. And that is our UFO news for today. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. More news directly ahead.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth. People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Government should be afraid.
All right, continuing on. So this next piece here, you know, Obama's gotten into some sort of trouble. Well, this is a 14-minute piece. I'm going to only play just a portion of it. But according to this video, federal court indicts Obama. So let's see what this is all about. Here we go.
Some very interesting news that was given to me today, earlier. And that is that I never have seen in my life such a parade of implicit indictments of a president of the United States as was reported to me today. I'm not going to comment on the details of this report, but I simply say that it comes as a blessed sign from heaven or something of that like that, and we should be greeted as such. It's obvious that what is obvious, without going into the details, which are better stated by relevant legal authorities and judicial authorities than by me. But I can say that what I've heard today, and I do understand what I've heard, that this is probably the greatest indictment of an incumbent president of the United States that I've ever heard. If there's one that occurred less ominous than this one, I don't know what it was. And I think I know the history of the United States pretty well. But that comes not as a finality of anything, because this situation is subject to all kinds of reversals back and forth. But the fact that such a counter to the president's behavior has been stated publicly by a federal court is in itself a very important development, even without trying to interpret what has been said. But the implications are, as any plain language view would say, this man has been slapped down back and forward repeatedly through the whole reading of these charges. Now that does mean there's a qualitative shift in the political situation inside the United States, which the reading of these charges, conclusions I presume, have been delivered. I don't think any president could withstand what has been read against them with such precision in the history of the United States. Some people have maybe hated someone more than they hate this fellow, but they certainly have placed the charges, and I don't think that without the equivalent of some kind of coup d'etat in support of the president, that he can withstand this.
All right, so there's a lot more to this 14 minutes video in total, but check it out. We'll have to keep our eyes on this to see what kind of charges are actually out there that he is talking about, but that news is making its way around the alternative web, so the alternative media. All right, this next story here is a piece on Ron Paul exposing Obama's undeclared war in Mali. Here we go.
We turn out to Mali, where French forces are declaring victories after they intervened in the country 3 weeks ago. Their aim is to stop Islamist militants from seizing control of the country. French and Malian troops retook the major towns of Gao and Timbuktu over the weekend. Right now, the U.S. is helping France by providing intelligence and aiding with the transport and refueling missions. Well, at this point, U.S. officials say there are no plans to put soldiers on the ground in Mali, but there are some that fear this is the lead up to another war. Among those, former Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul, who has gained many followers for his anti-interventionist views. He says many questions about the extent of U.S. involvement there have gone unanswered.
Media questions as to whether the U.S. has special operation forces, drones, or CIA paramilitary units active in Mali are unanswered by the administration. Congress has asked few questions and demanded few answers from the president. As usual, it was not even consulted. But where does the president get the authority to become a co-combatant in French operations in Mali, even if U.S. troops are not yet overtly involved in the attack?
Well, the Texas congressman goes on to compare the French intervention in Mali to what transpired in Libya. He said, quote, "When Gaddafi was overthrown in Libya, many fighters from Mali who had lived in Libya and been trained by Gaddafi's military returned to their home country with sophisticated weapons and a new determination to continue their fight for independence for northern Mali. Thus, the France-initiated action against Libya in 2011 led to a new violence and instability in Mali that France decided it must also address." Well, with media access restricted in Mali, the war there is virtually invisible, with photographs and accurate statistics almost impossible to obtain. Now, many questions remain as to what exactly is going on there.
All right, so there you go. Something for you to check out further. There's a link available. Anyway, continuing on. So this next piece here, this is a piece, a common sense piece. It's a guy, it's MrColionNoir. I hope I pronounced that correct. And it's called How to Stop Mass Shootings. So we've heard a lot of nonsense coming from the media, from government agencies, from various politicians, religious organizations. We hear a lot of nonsense coming out from people about the situation. But when I hear something out there that's good common sense that you need to hear, I want to play that, because it lets you know that the people that represent and are part of the people, this is how real people think, and this is common sense that everyone should be considering. So I think it's important. It's obviously been well received, 516,000 viewings, and so a lot of people are checking this out. So here we go, and see what you think of this.
Every time there's a mass shooting, for the next month you'll hear the shooter this, the shooter that, his family this, his life that. But when somebody stops a mass shooting from happening, all you hear is this. Why wouldn't an insecure, unstable young man who believes he's invisible to the world and has nothing to live for, but wants to leave his mark on the world before he goes so that he can validate his life and make the world stand up and take notice of him, not commit a mass shooting? The media practically turns these guys into celebrities overnight. Hell, I take that back. They basically turn them into demigods. Don't believe me? I give you 10 seconds to rattle off the name of the most recent mass shooters in the last decade. If you're able to mention even one name to yourself, that's insane. What's the name of the guy who had a carry permit who tackled the guy who shot Gabrielle Gifford? Name the guy in the mall who had a concealed carry permit and stopped and deterred the guy who shot the mall up in Oregon. Or the name of the person who shot and stopped the kid who tried to shoot up the movie theater a couple of days after Newtown happened. Not one of these people's names are identifiable within 10 seconds, but I'm forced to learn the inner details of these sociopaths' lives who try to amass the highest body count? Balk at the idea of placing armed guards in schools or arming teachers because you don't want the kids going to school surrounded by guns. But you're okay with making these places gun-free zones while admitting in the same breath that we can't completely stop mass shootings, and reality has shown time and time again that obeying a gun-free zone sign is not anywhere on these mass shooters' bucket list. You want to stop mass shootings, and I mean stop them in their tracks? Put people in a position to put these bastards down the moment they open fire or show up intending to do harm. These guys are corner campers. They want an easy body count, not a shootout. You destroy the mass shooter's fantasy real quick by sending bullets in their direction. Right then, the fantasy stops and the reality kicks in, and that's when they take their lives. Then celebrate the heroes who stopped the mass shooter. Let the mass shooter die the same way he lived, as a nobody. Instead of forcing me to watch a guy with orange hair admire his work every time they bring him to court surrounded by cameras and watch every move he makes like he's Kim Kardashian. At least I get an endorphin spike when I see her. The whole anti-gun, pro-gun back and forth fight that happens after every mass shooting is like two bird-brained chicks fighting each other over a guy who they thought was their boyfriend, but come to find out he was sleeping with both of them at the same time. And now he's standing there watching them fight each other when they should be fighting him. Fight the bad guy, not each other. This isn't a pro-gun, anti-gun thing. Meet the coward in the fantasy and stop them, and don't glorify them, and they'll cease to be a fantasy. And they'll have to find new ways to make themselves relevant. Taking away guns isn't the answer. It's a feel-good measure because people don't want the responsibility of being responsible for their own safety. They rather believe that the police will be there when we know and they know and the police know they won't. No one wants to fight for the protection. They want the government to do it. They want the police to do it. Because I'll admit, it's scary to think that the only person responsible for your safety is you. But guess what? That's reality. Cops can't always be there. Obama definitely can't be there when your life is on the line or your kids. The people in the best position to stop mass shooters are the people who are there. Give them the means to stop these bastards, and I promise you, all these mass shootings will stop once they realize there's no more free shoots. Instead of trying to save just one kid's life, let's try to save 10 or 12 or 20 and have maybe only one person die, instead of trying to save just one life and 20 die.
All right, now there's some good common sense. Good common sense, and hopefully, somebody up there in a position of making some of these decisions will consider such things. All right, 3-minute news. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. You are looking at L waves ripped across the planet by a significant earthquake. Yesterday, when I called a quake watch for the beginning of February, I mentally recalled the running joke last year with these watches where I'd always seem to miss the first 1 or 2 in the swarm, happening usually 1 to 2 days before the watch period. Usually, it was the leading edge of a coronal hole aspect being geo-effective and I had simply waited for the meat of the variables to present themselves. Well, I did it again. I ignored the leading coronal hole causation, despite the fact that it was directly facing Earth. I called the quake watch to start February, and Chile made me look like a fool 2 days early. A solid 6.7 earthquake, followed by a 6-pointer in the Santa Cruz Islands. USGS upgraded the Chile quake to 6.8, and we had a second Santa Cruz quake. Then this morning, Alaska rumbled, and we doubled the 2013 significant quake list in under 13 hours. For those who didn't watch me do this all last year or who missed the statistical recap, perhaps you can pick up with the experts who are now converging on this general topic but are starting with the long periodicity side of the subject. This paper is a tremendous start, indicating that the planets affect long-term solar cycles. It's free, easy to find, and linked below. I won't spoil the fun, but essentially, the planets affecting the solar system center of mass versus the solar center of mass creates torque. This concept can help explain why following the planets works for earthquake watches as well. The comet Venus? The ancients claimed they watched her birth, and that she appeared like a great comet. This must bring a smile to David Talbot of the Thunderbolts Project. Interesting article here describing soil temperature changes at the caldera in Naples, Italy. Let's all hope this big guy stays asleep. If you live near here, the cyanobacteria is highly toxic to pets and small children. Just don't risk it. Radioactive cows in the Daiichi zone, confirming that the calves and babies have higher concentration than the adult cows. Cyclone Philae, doing what the experts thought it'd do, swinging south right before Madagascar. Then there's the #1 weather story. I know I've been more focused on the USA weather for a few days, but there's a very good reason for that. We have tornadoes, severe storms, flooding, hail, wind, damage, and now death. And it's not over. There will be hurricane-speed wind gusts in the Northeast, while tornado warnings aren't going away either. Power is out all over the place, and it's so cold on the backside of the system, I'm speechless. We need to replace the term global warming with climate extremes or just climate change, because to peg just heating is preposterous. Space weather. Bartol spaceship Earth shows cosmic ray density rising, but the muon network appears to show it falling. Interesting. The sun tried to get some flaring going, but in truth, all the dangerous spots are on the backside of the sun. Not that we don't have things to watch here on the Earth-facing solar disk. In fact, that filament finally erupted, but did so not from the top, but from the lower corona. Much plasma falls back into the sun during filament eruptions, but this type released a solid CME. This happened right before the news, so satellites are not fully updated, but just look how widely the ejecta is dispersed. I have stereo A and B here, lined up so the Earth would be dead center from both angles, and you can see the blast visibly headed at Earth from both cameras. We'll be watching the satellite updates and these dark coronal holes turning in. Let's hope those early quakes took some of the steam out of our dynamo, but the watch technically continues. Eyes open.
Okay, so because we're living in a time when we have to be concerned about such things as collapsing societies, it's important that we are aware of, if such a thing happens, how we can take care of ourselves. So periodically, we have survival lists and so on. Well, this is one of medical supplies. Always good to have some medical supplies on hand. So here's a list of medical supplies, collapsed medical supplies with natural remedies included. Dr. Bones and I spend a lot of time and energy researching backup plans for traditional medicine. We want you to have the knowledge to provide medical help if we have a collapse. I have planted over 60 different medicinal herbs and my raised beds, and am learning how incredible natural remedies can be. So this is a great article, great references, anything from oral antibiotics to how many bandages you probably should have, gauzes, all different things, everything you can think of, hand swipes, hand sanitizers, sterile gloves, masks, on and on. It's a good list. It's a good list of stuff, so I wanted to make you aware of this. So should you have the need, it is available. All right. So that brings us to the end. If you're watching the show out there, there's been some technical difficulties, so if you've experienced some glitchiness and things, believe me, I'm experiencing the glitchiness on this side as well, so we're having fun together. All right, so let's get to our meditation for today. Okay. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Exhale. Take another deep breath. Exhale. I want you to imagine that you are in the middle of a storm. All around you, the wind swirls the water. And as we continue to experience the energy chaotically around us, and as we continue to breathe, we find that the energy channels through us, and as it comes out, it is calmer. And after a few moments, the energy around us calms, so that the outer energy matches the inner calm. And sometimes that inner calm is all that we need to get ourselves through the day. So let us set our conscious minds on processing the energy and being a calming force in the world today as we travel about. Let's send out love into the world, down into the planet, up into the cosmos. And as our unconscious continues to send out love and to calm the energies of life around us, let us bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it, my friends. That's it. We made it through the show. And I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.